Have you got a hankering for a soft, elastic waistband that does not look like elastic inside a casing? There's lots on the market. You're free to buy them, of course, but we're going to make one from scratch, no pattern needed. Here are the two that I'm working on, and I'll switch between them in this video. We're going to start with the sewing bit of it, just in case you are working from a pattern and you need that first, and then we're going to head backwards to the pattern making. Our first task is to wind the bobbin by hand. You see that little hole in the bobbin case? Yours might be different, but mine has a little hole. Stick your elastic shirring thread through that, and that's going to help hold the tension as you wind it by hand. You're going to do this process so many times over this shirring project, so you will get faster and you will get better. And can I just say, don't accidentally let go, because this elastic thing will fly across the room and unravel your bobbin like nothing else in 2 seconds flat. Once you have wound your bobbin through all the hooks and levers of its mechanisms, making sure they're really safely in there, it's time to test drive your shirring to make sure that everything is behaving well. Remember, it's going to be different on different types of materials, so you may need to change some tension settings. And while we look at what this shirring looks like, don't forget to subscribe. It'll keep you up to date with everything that we are doing. So it's looking good, my shirring. Now we can do a precise cut with precise measurements that we've calculated, but that's coming at the end. So for now, I'm going to say cut yourself 2.5 to 3 times as much material as you need to go around your waist or your hip or wherever your waistband is sitting. You're also going to have to know how tall you want your waistband, and that's something you measure on your body, because you might be shorter than I am. I wanted 15 centimeters, and I've just done a little nick on the side of my fabric there, and now I am making a horizontal cut so that it's 15 centimeters tall. And of course I have to cut it again because I need just so much fabric. I think I had 2.5 meters that I cut here, and I'll join that together. It's now time to shirr. So I'm lining this first one up along with the edge of that silver plate, and that's how I'm keeping my straight line of shirring. You're going to go over and do this many, many times. Have a system for how you calculate where the next shirred line is going to run. I start to use my presser foot, so I use the width of my presser foot. Yes, you could draw lines on your fabric, but who wants to do that? It's just another stage. The other problem you're going to run into, and I will just run ahead to that little bit here, is when you run out of bobbin. So you will have seen me checking constantly. I still got bobbin running. Clearly I haven't here, and I had that little thread. All you're going to need to do is change your bobbin, restart over the thread with a zigzag to try and catch it, or you can decide to change your bobbin and re-spool that bobbin every single, probably 2 rows. I think that's what it worked out for me. Now, if you have restarted mid-row, just go back to check that you got over the top of that end. I didn't here, so I decided to put a little knot in there just to double security that these things won't come undone. Yes, days later, after you've sewn every single little row of shirring, you're going to end up with a very long piece of shirred fabric. And this is my black one, just folded over here. Now to make it fit you. So wrap it round yourself, put it on your skin, and just peg or pin how firm you want this. And now we're ready to lie it down and just cut where you had your peg or your marking. For me, I'm cutting a rectangle, but if you are nipped in at the waist, of course you can do an angled cut so you've got some waist shaping. You might want to have a look at the tutorial I did on the nipped in waist for the soft jersey waistband. Put that in the right corner. Now for my red one, or black and red one, I used the feature of my cutting thing on the overlocker just to do it in one hit. So I chalked down the line where my pins were, flipped it so it was right sides together, and then I'm using my cut function on my overlocker to do the cutting and the sewing all in one. And there we've got the waistband. So you know I'm all about comfort, and I did wear my waistband and discovered that no, my tummy skin does not like the shirring elastic. I do need a lining to make it comfortable for my skin. So I'm just measuring up from my waistband to get the exact same amount of material, and I'll make that into a lining. This is a soft, stretchy jersey, so I'm not worried at all about the fact that we might have mismatched stretch. It's going to be fine. And we get to sewing the seam of the lining. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then the next task is we have to attach it. So we have to mark the quarters. Now, I have gone through this in my other soft jersey waistband series. I'll go and attach that to the top. Those arrows that I've put there show the centre third seams that I've got on this waistband. Now, why that happened is because I chose the best of my shirring, and it ended up having that centre third part with seams, and that's how it turned out. So I did the same with my lining, and what I'm doing now is just marking the centre front. Ignore that seam line because it has nothing to do with my centre front and my centre back. Then I fold it in half again, and I'm marking my quarter points. I'm doing it at the top and at the bottom because both will need to be marked for when we sew on the garment after we've sewn on our lining. And then once we've done that for the lining, we're all done and we haven't snagged anything, do it the same for the shirt piece. So we're going to attach the lining. I found my markings of the centre back, and here is my first quarter. I've matched them up with the lining and with the shirred part. I am going to now gently stretch both pieces as I overlock them together. You could do it on a sewing machine. You'll be using a zigzag stitch because you want it to stretch. The one thing you have to decide is where that seam line is going to lie, hard up against your top elastic, or do you want to have a little gap with just that seam allowance that'll tuck under. It's your choice. It doesn't make too much of a difference, but you may make that choice. So here's our finished product. Now it's going to look a little wrinkly when it's relaxed because we stretched it out. But remember, we're stretching it out on our bodies, so it will not look wrinkly. If I flip that lining over, you can see it's nicely flush against my elastic in this case. I'm not going to try and turn the lining into place. You can see it's nice and smooth for my skin on this side, but I'm going to turn it into place on my body because that will be far easier. You'll see there's some little pin lines at the top and at the bottom to keep the lining and the shirring piece together. And that all the way around in preparation for the next stage of sewing the garment on. So taken off my body carefully with the pins, this is what my waistband looks like. Beautiful shirred waistband. Now, if you had decided that you didn't want to put a lining on, you could have chosen to use the selvage, so you would have a ruffle at the top and not have to do anything else, or you can do a little hem, and that will keep the top from fraying, and you'll have a nice little ruffle. It's very easy to make a pattern. You just need a little prep. Now, decide where you want the measurement to be. I always like my waistbands to attach to the garment at this point, as you can see from this soft jersey waistband I've put to trousers. So simply find the circumference measurement. If you have a nipped-in waist, you'll also have a top waist measurement, and you'll do the next set of measuring calculations twice. Now for some simple maths to calculate our shirred waistband material requirements. We take our test piece. It should have a sufficient shirring to emulate how many rows you're actually going to do. And we had 68 centimeters to start with. That became, so I'm writing this in a sentence not to confuse myself, it became 24 centimeters when it was shirred. Now that I've written it in a sentence, I can just translate that into a little equation. It's very simple. So 68 was times by something, the something we don't know. So I'm going to say it's an X. It was times by an X, don't know what it is. And that became equals 24 centimeters. Now there's a rule with algebra. When you take away one component across that equal signs, you have to do the opposite. So we've got 68 times something. I'm going to get rid of the 68 because I want X. So we have 68 times, we have to do a divide now. So X is going to be 24 divided by 68. And that's all we do. So whatever your measurements are, you plug this in, do the same thing. And that will give you some kind of an answer, 0.35 in this case. And then we have to find out something else. That measurement you just took with a measuring tape, that's how much you want, maybe. You at least want that much. Maybe you want a little bit less, but be safe, okay? Because it's going to stretch, so maybe you want, a bit less, but be safe. So I want 104 centimeters of shirring. So I'm going to put that into a sentence, and I'm going to then make it an algebraic equation. Scary words. It's not scary at all. So what do I want? I want 104. So it equals 104. What do I know? Okay, I don't know that bit. So I'm going to use a y. Don't know what it is. And it's going to be times something, and we already found that out. So it's going to be times 0.35 to get to 104. Now we're going to use that rule. If we take one component across the equal sign, it has to be doing the opposite thing. So y has to be opposite of the multiplication. So now we're dividing by 0.35. And that's an easy sum. Just use your calculator and you'll find out how much material you actually need to cut in your waistband. So 297 centimeters. There you go. That's how much generosity of fabric you need for shirring. It's probably why you won't find soft and kind shirring necessarily in a waistband on the market, because they don't recognize that some people like very soft garments against their skin, and they assume that we need more constriction. I hope you've made it this far. Here they are, 2 finished waistbands. Now you'll see with the red and black one that I've got a really decent amount of lining sticking out. And I'm doing that for a very special reason. You're going to find out in the next projects. So 2 things are coming up. We're going to look at what happens if your machine just will not shirr. You cannot make it shirr. I've got you. We're going to look at some faux shirring. And then we're going to do a full skirt project. Enjoy your comfy lives. Have fun with your waistbands. And I'll see you next time.